What's up, guys? This is going to be the full card breakdown for UFC Fight Night Aldana versus Holm. It's coming up this Saturday, 7 o'clock start time for the prelims. I mentioned the past couple weeks that I'm going to start tracking the guys who have been leaving their picks in the comments, and then I'll give out a cash prize to the winner at the end of the year. So it's going to go one quarter from October to the end of December. The way it's going to work is pretty simple. If you have a winning night, it's going to be 1 point, so more picks correct than you got wrong. If you hit an underdog, that's going to be 1 point as well. And then if you get the method of victory, so TKO, submission, or decision, that'll be a point. So the reason I'm doing it this way is, everybody leaves different picks. Some people leave the full card. Some people drop a bet or two, and then some just only leave one pick. So even if you just leave one, you have a chance at all 3 points if you get the method of victory, the W, and it's an underdog. So everybody has an equal chance. So for this event, I haven't even looked at all the fights. I'm pretty sure, this is going to be the final bet lineup. I don't think I'll be adding anything to it, but there was a couple fights that I didn't get a chance to look into. I'm going to pull this up real quick to give you guys an idea of how many fights there are available for betting right now. So there was a Bellator today, there's a Bellator tomorrow, and a ton of smaller promotions putting on fights as well. So I've been looking into those, but I did want to get this video out before Saturday. So the way I'm going to do it is I'll run through the card, talk about all the bets. If I haven't looked into it yet, I'll give a lean. A lot of the times I'll have seen some fights, but it's always better to refresh, right? So I'll get straight into it, though. First fight of the night, we got, just bear with me here for a second. So Jason Ayari and Luigi Vendramini. So I watched the fight from each of these guys. I would have liked to look at a little bit more, but Vendramini, in the fight that I watched, was his debut against Zaleski dos Santos. He lost that fight. He got taken out in the second round, but he actually looked pretty good in the first. He got Zaleski's back, had him in a choke. It actually looked like he might get the finish. So that was pretty impressive, to come in on your debut and, have a moment like that in the first. Even though he did get put away, that's a tough first fight. Jason Ayari, he's the type of guy that's probably going to go for the kill here. He's got some submission wins as well, so, this one could play out pretty interesting on the ground. I don't really have a strong lean on this one. I'm definitely not going to be putting a bet down on it. I'm going to lean towards Vendramini. He has that first fight under his belt. He's probably going to be confident. I'm going to stay away from this one. I'll lean towards Vendramini by decision, but this could be a good fight. Next up, we got Haley Alateng and Casey Kenney. So this one, Casey Kenney was going to be a parlay option. His line's been beat up pretty bad at this point, though. So what I'll do at the end of the video when I pull up the bets, I'll give out all the options. I'll probably come back after the weigh-ins tomorrow, and I'll pair them up and put, any final props or anything like that in the comments. So if you're interested in the updated lineup, it should be there tomorrow night. I'm going to go with Casey Kenney here. I'm hoping that he looks to wrestle, tire out Alateng, mix it up on the feet as well. But I think that, his advantage in this fight is going to be the grappling. So I'm going to go with Casey Kenney here to get it done by decision. Next up, we got Loma Lookboonmee and Jinyu Frey. So this is the second bet of the night. I have a bet on Loma. I put that in about 2 days ago, and I think it was at minus 120 at the time. It has taken a hit since then, but I do expect her to win. She's fighting out of Tiger Muay Thai. She has over 200 Muay Thai fights, a lot of experience in there, some heavy kicks, all around good striking. In her fight against Angela Hill, she did a lot better than people expected. It went to a decision, but Angela was way bigger than her. And she had a good account of herself. So I do like her to win here. I think Jinyu Frey's probably going to look to grapple. I don't think she would fare too well on striking exchanges. So I expect her to try to, grind it up against the cage and get a decision that way. But I'm going to go with Loma here. Second bet of the night. I'll say by decision. Next up, we got Jordan Williams and Nasruddin Imavov. So I haven't looked into this one. I did watch Jordan Williams' most recent fight on the Contender Series. He looked pretty good in that one, but this is going to be his UFC debut. A lot of fighters don't perform, up to the caliber they normally would in that first fight. So he did look good, like I said, and that fight wasn't too long ago. I think that was only, a couple weeks ago. So he's probably still in pretty good shape. Didn't take any damage in that fight. But this one's going to be a tough one to call. I'm not going to put a bet down on it. If you put a gun to my head, I'll say Jordan Williams just because, he was just in there. But haven't done enough research on this one. I'm going to stay away from it. Next up, we got Joshua Culibao and Charles Jourdain. So Joshua made his debut in the UFC on short notice against Jalen Turner. So not really a good matchup for him. I think he was going up a weight class. Turner was way bigger than him, and he took the loss in that fight. So not really anything to be ashamed of, just because, like I said, going up a weight class, short notice, a guy that has a ton of reach and height. It was just a mismatch, in my opinion. In this fight, I think that, it's a little bit closer, but I still think Charles Jourdain should be able to pick up the win. I think, from what I see on tape, he's the better fighter. Joshua Culibao, he's not bad. I mean, I don't write him off. And I do think the line is a little bit off. I think that it should be a little bit closer, but I do have Charles Jourdain in a parlay. That line's been beat up as well. For fighters like this, you really got to jump on it as soon as it drops. But Charles Jourdain has looked good in the UFC. In his last fight, he took a loss to Andre Fili. Definitely no shame in that one. It's some good experience, and he looked pretty good in that one. It was a split decision. Previous to that, he beat Duho Choi. He got the finish in that fight. And then decision to Des Green, he lost. But some really good experience. It's not like he was knocked out or beat up in those fights. And I think in this fight, he should be able to get it done. I'm going to go with Charles Jourdain by TKO in the second round. Then we got Carlos Condit and Court McGee. So this is a battle of the veterans. Both of these guys have been around forever. Court McGee on one of the early seasons of The Ultimate Fighter, and Carlos Condit, he's been in all the promotions. I think WEC, UFC, and probably Bellator if he loses this one. But I do like Carlos Condit. I think that, he's a tough guy. He's there to fight every time. It just looks like he's slowed down, right? It was disappointing to see him take some of the losses that he has recently. I feel like he's going to be training really hard for this fight. I mean, 5 losses straight, all high-level opponents. Guys like Robbie Lawler, Damian Maia, and Michael Chiesa. So, I mean, top-notch fighters that he's been losing to, but at the same time, being on a streak like that, it's going to light a fire under him. So, taking on a guy like Court McGee, I think Court slowed down quite a bit as well. Which fight was it that he looked terrible in? So Sean Brady, he's a really tough opponent. I don't see any shame in that loss, but, he hasn't looked good. Even going back to the Diego Lima loss, I expected him to win that fight. He didn't look good at all in that one. So if that guy shows up for this fight, I do feel like Carlos Condit should be able to get it done. Years ago, it would have been an easy pick. I would have took Condit all day. But both of these guys are declining, so I'm going to go with Condit here by decision. Next up, we got Townsend and Dusko Todorovic. So this one's interesting. I could see this being the parlay spoiler of the night. Todorovic is the better fighter, in my opinion. I think that, skill-wise, he has the sharper tools. But, Townsend, 2 of his 3 fights were short notice. He hasn't really had the best go of it in the UFC. I think he's going to be really hungry in this fight. He is pretty well-rounded. It's just he's not great in any aspect of MMA, right? Todorovic will have the advantage on the feet. He has some notable wins himself. He has went over Mikel Pereira in the first round by TKO, and he got a win on the Contender Series by decision. So I'm sure he'll be hungry for this fight. I just hope that he doesn't underestimate Townsend, because Townsend has some pop on his punches. I'm sure he's not going to want to go 0-4 in the UFC, so he's going to be really hungry for this one. It could be a really good fight. I'm going to stay away from it. Not going to put Todorovic in any parlays or anything like that. I will pick him to win, but I'm not overly confident. I'll say Todorovic by decision. Next up, we got Kyler Phillips and Cameron Else, or Elsie. I'm not sure how that one's pronounced. So Kyler looked good in his first UFC fight. I was impressed. I actually picked against him. Wasn't a good pick, but not a whole lot to look at as far as tape goes. But after that first UFC fight, I definitely think he's a good fighter. And, Cameron coming in for his debut against a guy like Phillips, who looked as good as he did, it's going to be hard for me to pick against him. I mean, if you look at his record, his last few fights, Brad Evans, 3-14, Mark Stevens, 0-1. He has a win over Aiden James, but that's the only fighter that has a positive record. He will go for it, though. I mean, he likes to rush his opponent and throw some bombs. I watched one of his fights as well. But I have to go with Kyler Phillips here. That's another parlay option. Again, the line's been beat up, but I do have him in a parlay as well. So I'm going to say Kyler Phillips by submission in the first round. Next up, we got Randamie and Juliana Pena. So this is another bet. I bet on Randamie before her line got hit up. I think it was at 1.9 when I took the bet. I do think that her striking's a lot better than Pena. You know, she's a really good kickboxer. She's got some power in her strikes. We saw her put out Aspen Ladd in the first, I think, 30 seconds of that fight. And she didn't look bad early on against Nunes, but as the fight progressed, you know, she got taken down pretty easily. But I do think she's been training her takedown defense. I think she's the stronger fighter here. Not sure what type of shape that Pena's in, but I think she's going to look to grapple, probably look to get Jourdain to the ground and pick up a submission win. But I think, like I said, Germain's the stronger girl. I think she should be able to stuff the takedown if she's in good shape, and just tag Juliana Pena with a big shot and maybe even get the finish. I mean, it could go to decision. I could definitely see that. But I think as far as the striking goes, Jourdain is far ahead of Pena. And as long as she can stay safe and fight smart, I think she should be able to get it done. So I'm going to say Jourdain to Randamie by TKO in the third round. Next up, we got the co-main event, Yorgan de Castro and Carlos Filipe. So both of these guys coming off of losses. Yorgan de Castro lost to Greg Hardy, and Carlos Filipe took a loss to, what's his name? Sergey Spivak. So not really impressed with Carlos Filipe. He's a guy that goes in there, you know, tries to land that big bomb. And I think that he does have some power. I mean, he looked a lot better on tape than he did in his debut fight. If he comes in good shape and he's patient, I mean, I don't write him off here. I think he has the potential to get it done. But I think Yorgan de Castro is the more well-rounded fighter. He's got some nasty leg kicks, and I think he's going to look to use those in this fight. Carlos Filipe has a bit more experience, but again, I think from what I saw from de Castro, he looked good previous to the Greg Hardy fight. I mean, he knocked out Justin Tough on the first round. Alton Meeks is a bit of a wrestler as well. He got the win in that fight. So this could play out pretty close. He also beat William Knight as well in a Muay Thai fight. But again, you know, he's not really always in the best shape. Both of these guys will probably come in pretty heavy. But I'm going to go with Yorgan de Castro. I'll say he gets it done by TKO in the second round. I don't think this one goes the distance. Next up, we got the main event, Holm and Irene Aldana. So Aldana's coming off that impressive win where she got the TKO in the first round over Ketlin Vieira. And Holm grinded out a win over Raquel Pennington. So both of them are coming off of wins. Holm has slowed down over the years, though. I give her the striking advantage, but at the same time, you know, that's only if she's in good shape and her speed's up to par. If not, I mean, Irene Aldana could definitely hang on the feet. I think Holm's going to look to, you know, mix her striking with her grappling here, tire out Irene Aldana, and take over later in the fight. But I do think that Irene's going to come in really good shape, so I don't know that she'll gas out. But I think that, you know, Holm might come with the same game plan that she did with Pennington. Just try to neutralize her on the cage and get a boring decision win. I'm not sure why the UFC made this as the main event. There's definitely more exciting fights on the card that could have been in its place, but I guess it's the name value of Holm. You know, she got that knockout years ago over Rousey, and she's been riding the wave since then. A lot of people talk about her, you know, using steroids, and with USADA not being around, I think, you know, all of these fights without USADA, or at least with them mailing in the tests, I think a lot of fighters are on steroids, but I am going to go with Holm here. I did put in a bet on her. I'm not sure what the line's looking at now, but it was a pick'em when I put it down. I think it was minus 110. So something to look at there, but you know, I'm not mad at anybody who's on Irene Aldana. This is one of those rare situations where whichever side you bet, I'm not mad at it. But I like Holm, you know, with the experience. She's a good kickboxer, and she has that ability to grind out a win. So I'm going to go with her in this fight, but I don't sleep on Irene Aldana. I think that she's going to be really hungry. She looks really good on the feet, so it's going to be interesting. But I'm going to go with Holm here by decision. I'll pull up the bets now. So for parlay options, we got Casey Kenney, Charles Jourdain, Kyler Phillips, and Yorgan de Castro. And then as far as straight bets, we got Lookboonmee, Jourdain de Randamie, Holm, and possibly Carlos Condit. A couple of these are depending on the weigh-ins. But the parlays I'll pair up tomorrow after I see the weigh-ins. So you can check back into the comments if you want to see how I paired those up. And then I'll have all the straights laid out. I'm not sure on Condit, but for the three ladies, I'm going to take shots on those. I'll probably have some props, but again, I want to have a look at the weigh-ins. I didn't actually get a chance to do the graphic for last week's winners, but there was some guys who did really well, so I'll give a quick shout out to some of those guys. Shoujo made cash last weekend. Quincy Pinola had a good night. Austin Gowan hitting the dogs again. Keep an eye on that guy. Who else do we have? Branko used Jebra, I believe it is. I probably butchered that, but he had Adesanya around 2 or 3 for the KO. What else do we have? Will Wong Sales again, so he's on a tear since I started doing these weekly winners. Doc Holliday. Who else? I think that was about it. I think Daniel Donahue as well. So another really good week of picks. It's going to be interesting to see who wins this competition. Like I said, I'm going to start tracking this week. So hopefully you guys have another good one. Let me know who you have as far as your bets go. I'm going to wrap it up here. And I'm going to check out the weigh-ins, like I said, and update everything tomorrow. So good luck to you guys. I appreciate you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.